Hi, it's Terry Roberts, and we are back with another of our community conversations with a leader who is coping with the pandemic and lots of other stuff. Then we're joined by Ed St. George, a developer, property manager, and leader of the business community. Thank you so much for being with us, Ed.
Thank you for having me, Jerry.
So, I think people know you're always around the ball when there's something going on around City Hall, and you're known for your uh, contributions to the community, certainly the IV Teen Center. But I just want to ask you a couple of questions for people who may not know your bio that well. So you're a Santa Barbara guy. You came here when you were young?
I was 9 years old when I moved here with my mother and my sister.
And where'd you come from?
From the Bay Area,
Yeah.
originally born in Oakland, yes.
And you went to public schools in Santa Barbara?
Oh yeah, public school system. Santa Barbara Dawn, the Santa Barbara Junior High. It's great schools.
Did you play sports?
Water polo and swimming.
Ah, okay. That's where you got your shoulders. All right, I got it. So how did you get into business? What was the pathway that led you to becoming a big developer in town?
Well, I don't know if I'm a big developer, but I kind of think I'm just more of a carpenter who's got a crew I got to keep busy. So what had happened is my mother moved out of town when I was pretty young, and I was taken in by a family called the Sierras. And actually, when I got booted out of high school, he was a pretty strict guy. He says, "If you're not going to school, you're coming to work with me." He was a carpenter. So I went to work with him, and he got me into the trades. That's how it all started.
So how long did you work as a carpenter?
Well, I'm still a carpenter.
Well, I know you never stopped being a pet, but how did it happen that you started the business?
Jobs were few and hard. I mean, back in those days, it wasn't so easy to get a job. I mean, when I first started in the trades, it was the Carter administration. Interest rates were really high. There wasn't a whole lot of construction going on. Kind of just bounced around, building decks, doing a few additions here and there. And I hooked up with a German contractor, Klaus Tillman, and he put me together with a guy named Richard Schneider. And so I went through the union and learned carpentry the right way. So.
Okay, all right. So St. George and Associates is the name of your company, and the website calls it a multifaceted property management, development, and construction company focused on single-family and multifamily residential, hotels, student housing, and commercial projects in Santa Barbara.
That must have been somebody from my staff that put that together. I couldn't spell half those words.
Tell us the scope of your company. How many units do you own? How many do you manage? How many projects do you have going at any given time?
We currently have, we've got just over 100 pieces of real estate in Santa Barbara. We pretty much cut my teeth in IV. IV was really good to me. Really enjoyed working out there. Still do. Owe a lot to that community. We started building when I came back to Santa Barbara. We moved to Europe. I retired when my son was 2 years old. And we retired. We moved over to Europe and lived there for 4.5 years.
Oh.
And then ended up moving back to town. When I realized I was raising a little trust funder, I wasn't giving him a very good example of being a father, a working father at least. So we came back. And,
when was that? When was that?
He's 14 right now, so I guess I've been back about 11 years.
And that's when you started the company, when you moved back?
No. I had the company before. That wasn't, I kept my company. I kept the guys busy doing remodel work.
I see.
But when I came back, mainly what I did before was I did smaller projects. Just mostly duplexes, fourplexes out in Isla Vista, a few around town, but mainly in IV. And then when I decided to come back, if I was going to show him, what to do in business. I didn't want to have it so limited.
And then when you started doing business more in Santa Barbara, what was your experience like dealing with the city and the permitting agents and so on? How would you characterize that?
Well, it's gone from bad to worse, but it's been bad for the last 15 years. It really has. It was bad right at the time I was leaving, and now it's gotten to the point where it has just become ridiculous. It really has. We're trying to put a duplex over on the east side right now. We started that project 5 years ago, and it's called a tenant displacement offering. And I got the house. It was vacant when I purchased it. And so the tenants that went into it signed, this is just an example.
Yeah.
They signed this affidavit saying that, they knew they weren't entitled to any relocation fees and it was going to be temporary. The woman lived there with her family for about 3.5 years. They ended up moving out. Her son graduated from college. The daughter ended up graduating from high school. And I don't know where they moved to, but that's not the point. We're trying to pick this permit up, and this is just something new that just came out that we've never heard of, because the goalpost constantly changes with the city. And now my planner is telling me that I have to have the original tenants that signed this TDAO or TDOA notarized, saying that they feel that they're not entitled to how do I know where these people are? I mean, these people moved out of town probably 2 years ago, and I didn't think I needed to have them sign this. This isn't something that we've heard of before. This is just something my planner, Kelly, came up with at the last minute. And this is the kind of thing that really drives me crazy. But that's minor.
Yeah.
That's the
But
most
it's an
recent.
example. Yeah. So when you say that they keep moving the goalpost and it's gone from bad to worse, there's a couple of different things I guess people would think it could be. Is the structure, the city administrator's elected council structure a problem? Is it the kind of go slow culture of the city, longtime culture? Is it a particular department? Is it particular individuals? What's your analysis of it?
Well, this is why about a year ago I kind of realized that this is an administration problem. This starts at the top and it goes all the way down the ladder. And that's when I started really trying to focus in, like, what's the real problem here? And all roads lead to Paul. I like Paul. Paul's a nice guy.
Paul Casey, the city administrator.
Yeah, how can you not like Paul? I mean, he's like the cheerleader guy. Stands over and he's always happy, and he's always cheering you on. But we have a lot of problems. Our town's not moving in the right direction at all. In fact, it's, like I said, it's a rudderless ship, is what I put in my letter, and I really feel that way.
And so do you think it's more on his side of things than it is on the elected official side, the mayor and others?
Well, most definitely. I mean, and I can say that without a doubt. Councils come and go. I mean, he professes he loves all his councils. It's the same problems. I mean, so this council is much different than the council was 5 years ago or even 10 years ago. These problems that we have, like I say, they've been endemic for the last 15 years. And in fact, I pretty much say that Paul used to run the community development department. It's being run now the exact same way it was run when Paul ran it. Nothing's changed. Everybody's beating up George right now, George Buell, the current director. And I keep telling everybody, don't hate the lion, hate the lion trainer, because Paul's the one pulling the strings here.
And when you talk about what the specific problems are there, is it that they, rather than trying to help developers or help residents with projects, they're trying to hinder them? Or, I mean, how would you specify what that is?
It's, that's one aspect of it, Jerry. quite honestly, it's the vision. It's the lack of vision. It's the lack of teamwork. And this is really for me right now at this point. I've got about 4 years left, maybe 5 years tops, living in Santa Barbara and running my business the way I am. My wife and I have plans to move back to Italy. We've kept our home there. I want to see the city get off to a good direction. I'm concerned in the direction the city is running. There's a lot of issues. Getting permits, that's difficult. Frankly, Paul Casey has made me a very, very wealthy man by making it so difficult. I have the staying power, to hang on to these projects. I can buy projects that most people can't buy because I understand the ins and outs. But the fact of the matter is that Santa Barbara is not moving in a great direction. You asked Paul, hey, where are we going to be in 5 years? He goes, I can't tell you where we're going to be in 6 months. That just blows my mind. I mean, that's terrible. And for him to blame that on city council, it's not acceptable. It really isn't.
And when you talk about the vision for the city, obviously there's a series of problems. One is, the collapse of retail, even before the coronavirus, and with the rise of Amazon and empty storefronts on State Street. What are your thoughts on, what economically the city should be doing to kind of fill that gap?
Santa Barbara's positioned in a really, really unique way, and in a very, very good, unique way. We're an island. I mean, Paul keeps drawing parallels between us and Santa Monica. I can tell you the only parallel that I can see between Santa Barbara and Santa Monica is they have a beach, we have a beach. Behind us, we have the Los Padres Forest. We have topographics that are impossible to build on, from the Rincon down to the Ventura. And to the north, we have the Gaviota Coast, which I'm happy is protected. Santa Monica has surrounding its entire area, literally 25 million people. And so with that being said, we need to look at how we can't compare ourselves with Santa Monica. We are a completely different dynamic, but we have something that Santa Monica will never have, ever. And one, we have better weather. It's similar, but it's better here. But two, we are an island, and Santa Barbara is unique in that way. And we have a tremendous history behind us. Santa Barbara, in my opinion, I see Santa Barbara, here's how I see the future, is we could be the Cambridge of the United States. I mean, we've already got
Massachusetts or Cambridge, England, you referenced.
Cambridge, England. We've got these amazing schools. UCSB is one of the top UCs in the UC system. The City College just got #1 again. Westmont just got #1 again for the Christian schools. We have such a plethora of intelligence in our community. And that just goes hand in hand with R&D and tech. And one of the things that I don't understand is why we're not pushing to be Santa Barbara, the coastal tech area. We have Silicon Valley, we could be Silicon Coast. We wouldn't be in this position, or not as much in this position, if we had started thinking about that a couple of years back. These tech companies come to Santa Barbara, that nobody comes to Santa Barbara to think that, oh, I'm going to open my tech company down in Carpinteria, or I'm going to open my tech company in Goleta, because nobody heard of those places. Everybody's heard of Santa Barbara. They end up in Carp, or they end up in Goleta, because Santa Barbara is not friendly towards them. I mean, we do nothing to invite them here, to make their lives easier, or for that matter, to make it even halfway comfortable. So we have this opportunity to have this very symbiotic relationship between these great schools. We have the tech companies would love to be here. I'm sure they would be. They've tried to move in so many times. It's incredible. And then, I hear, and this is kind of why I kind of lost it the other day, and I wrote that letter. about Jason Harris, and it's not against Jason personally.
This is
I've
our
never.
new economic development director that was hired after there was a rather expensive consultant study about how the city could interact better with business.
Yes, exactly. You know, Paul said the reason he hired outside because he was worried about the criticism that he may have gotten for hiring somebody within the system. Um, and you know that's simply not true. That the city, the council members, but moreover the city, the business leaders and business owners were very, very clear that they wanted somebody local. They even paraded people up. I even wrote letters of recommendation for 2 individuals that were here local. And when I put this email out asking if anybody had requested from Paul that he hires somebody out of the area, you know, I've got an email list of about 70 people. Not one. The only responses I got back were people going, no, we actually recommended other individuals that were here local. Um, and this kind of gets down to the issue. Santa Barbara, when I was telling you, is so unique, so different than Santa Monica. You know, Santa Barbara really has 3 phases of a business phase. Um, you have the 8 to 4, which Jason is going to see. He's going to leave his home and his community in Thousand Oaks, and he's going to drive to Santa Barbara, and he's going to see the Santa Barbara face. Well, then at 4 o'clock, when our personality, our business personality starts to change, he's going to get back in his car. He's going to commute back to his community in Thousand Oaks, and he's going to experience what his community is doing. Well, Santa Barbara is now having its nighttime, evening community, business community. And then you have weekends and holidays where, you know, Mr. Harris is going to be in his community down in Thousand Oaks, while Santa Barbara is going to be having its community, its business. He's not going to be involved in our little league team, soccer. Maybe he wouldn't be anyway. But you know, you live in a town, you tend to join, especially if you're in a position of leadership. You tend to join boards and interact with the people. And Santa Barbara being so unique, we need that localization here. We really do.
Let me
And it's
ask.
go ahead.
Yeah, let me ask you this, because the economic development director being from out of town was one of the bill of particulars, and we should just to clarify, there was a letter you sent to Newshawk, and you were on top of, oh, I don't know, 10 or 12 other business leaders there, you know, saying that the first thing we needed to do was the first and foremost action was to replace the city administrator. But there were other things too. The housing shortage was one of the things that you mentioned. What do you attribute? I mean, obviously it's a statewide problem, and we have had problems building housing in California forever, even before the coronavirus. But what specifically about Santa Barbara makes it difficult to build housing that people can afford?
Well, I don't know if we're ever going to have housing here that people can afford unless it's deemed affordable. Um, Once again, we live on an island. It's an extremely desirable place to be. I think it may be a little difficult for a lot of people to understand that not everybody can live here. Uh, this is not a right to live in Santa Barbara. It's a privilege to live here. Uh, and we're actually doing some low-income housing ourselves right now. I think it's important for the community. I'm at a level in my career right now where I can do that, but a majority of people can't do that. And I tell you, I've seen so many developers come and go, people that come to Santa Barbara. In fact, I know 3 developers right now, very successful guys, really tried to build here, did one project, would call me as they're going through the processing. In fact, I bought 2 of the projects from them about midway through the process because they just couldn't take it anymore. I was talking to the Starbucks contractor the other day in the Capital Hardware. He was telling me that it is a guy that works up and down the coast, right? I mean, imagine he's worked in Monterey everywhere. And I was asking how's it going, and he goes, "I can't wait to get out of this town." He goes, "I'm never going to do another project here the rest of my life." And I go, that bad, huh? And he goes, it's beyond bad. He goes, I'm done. He goes, I will not step foot in Santa Barbara and build here again the rest of my life. And you hear that. Santa Barbara is known for deep-rooted problems, and it's been known that for at least 20 years.
Well, I was going to say, I mean, it's a historic thing where a lot of people in the community have wanted to preserve the community, not exactly preserved in amber, but certainly, the way that it's always been. We even had, I guess, in the 80s, this vote on, we're going to cap the population, only I think 89,000 people are allowed to live here. Do you think that it's that sort of historic culture, or that that's an important piece of it? And do you see any signs that that's changing?
Changing in a way where we're more accepting of more people living here, you mean?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Well, I think now it's kind of being pushed down our throat by this new governor. We don't really have much of a choice with the ADU program and a few other programs. I personally don't like the AD program. I mean, I don't like it, but I think we've got almost 15 applications in the city right now. I'm not going to miss that train. But I don't like it when the state comes in and starts telling the local community how to build, and that there's absolutely no oversight whatsoever on design. I don't think that's good for the community either. But the reason we have that is because of communities like Santa Barbara, where you have the community development here that makes it nearly impossible to build for anybody. I mean, you look at the website I started. I feel bad for some of these people. Their dream, they go in, they buy a house, and it's a fixer-upper. They're going to make it just like for them. They save, they get it. They go to do their dream, and by the end of their dream, it's become one of their biggest nightmares of their lives. It shouldn't be that way. It really shouldn't be. We're supposed to be Team Santa Barbara. We're supposed to be working together. There's no question about it.
In the letter, calling for the city administrator to be replaced, you said that we need someone, quote, of vision and courage, bold and decisive action. What does that mean? What does that look like to you? What should the city administrator be doing that he's not?
I'm going to bring up an example right now. The Paseo Nuevo was a really good example. Incidentally, the lead negotiator on that is none other than George Buell, I found out. But let's look at this just in itself. You've got a developer, Pacific Retail. They've come to us and they said, we'd like to modify our lease. Great. What would you like? We want to extend our lease to bring it up to where we have, I think it's 68 or 65 years. I'm not sure exactly how it is. Well, that's great. But we're going through an issue right now. We're kind of redesigning our Santa Barbara in a sense. The negotiation is if you put in $20 million worth of new pavers or something, I have no idea what they're doing. I know they're putting some new light fixtures, but Paseo, it doesn't look any different than it did 5 months ago. But here's what we could have had if we had a visionary in there. If we had somebody that really had some vision for Santa Barbara. It's like, so what do you think this is worth? 20, $25 million? Well, they settled on 20 million. I think it's a little cheap, but let's say it's worth $20 million. For $20 million, I would have told that developer, it's like, we're going to rewrite your entire lease. Because when this lease was put together in the first place, 35 years ago, retail was a different world. This is before the Amazon, before a lot of things. And so let's talk about rebuilding your lease. And in fact, we're going to help you rezone this to where it makes more sense. We're going to revitalize the Paseo Nuevo. How are you going to do that, Mr. Santa Barbara? Well, here's what I want to do. I want you to come up with a plan. That $20 million you were going to pay me, I want $20 million worth of residential added to the Paseo Nuevo. And by my calculations, you could get anywhere between maybe 50 to 75 units. That would activate the Paseo Nuevo, is having an extra 150 people live on there. And not only that, it would actually increase our asset. We could probably even draw a fourth lease if we wanted. It would be on the residential aspect of it. But that's just an example of what Paul Casey should have done in this situation. And instead, we're not going to get anything. Our city is going to have our largest piece of retail product. They're going to put in more retail. We have new paving, which I don't think anybody cares about. It's not going to bring one more person. That's just the way it is. That's just the way the guy operates. It's unfortunate.
What do you say to people who argue that that the timing for replacing the administrative city administrator is bad because of the coronavirus? We're in this public health emergency. We're in this economic emergency. It's just it would be too disruptive. What do you say to that argument?
Well, my argument is that, and I've actually had a number of conversations with council members regarding that. This guy couldn't navigate the ship in perfect waters. We had the wind to our back. We had one of the best economies the United States has seen in over 50 years, and he couldn't navigate the waters. Now we have the storm of a lifetime, the perfect storm. And now I think all of a sudden this guy's going to become a great captain. It doesn't make any sense. I mean, now more than ever, we need a true leader, a visionary. Paul told you himself, I'm not looking out more than 6 months. You don't walk down the street watching your shoes. You have to look out. I understand we've got some real issues on our hands right now, but if we don't have a vision, and we've never had a vision, if we don't have a vision where we're going to take this, like I said, schools, education, man, think about this, Jerry. We have 40,000. This is between UCSB, City College, Westmont, all these other little schools around here, right? They've estimated that there's 40,000 students in Santa Barbara. I would imagine probably at least 25,000 of those people from out of town. All right, that means at any given point, we have about 25,000 full-time tourists sitting here in Santa Barbara where their parents or somebody else is earning money in another community, sending it to Santa Barbara where these people spend it. What could be better than that? There's so many ways. One of the issues that, I'm sorry I'm all over the board on this, but we're talking about a visionary here. This guy brings in a guy from Santa Monica that's talking about car shows, musicians going up and down State Street. You know how many times I've seen that in my life growing up in this town? I mean,
so you think that the ideas are just too small, is what you're saying?
They're not new.
Yeah.
I mean, these are sound bites. I keep hearing sound bites. And like I said, I'm not trying to beat up on this guy, but you know what? I moved into this town. Have you ever looked at a drone shot or gone up to Bella Suegro? I know I just pronounced it incorrectly.
Eduardo?
No, Miss Clark. That the left, that's the Clark estate.
Yeah, Bella Squardo.
Bella Squardo, exactly.
You have a better accent than I do, that's all.
That's our Getty. That's our San Pedro. I mean, that right there, that's one of the things. She left that to our community. All right? Come on. It's like that's something we can capitalize on right there. Our schools, how about agritourism? Nobody talks about, Rob Dayton's been trying to get bike lanes, turning Santa Barbara into a blue zone for years. We've got mountains. We've got a bike lane that goes all the way from UCSB to Ventura. I rode it the other day with my wife on electric bikes. But I mean, it was great and back. But it was wonderful. It really was. We've got incredible mountains up there to ride bikes. Kayaking, all these things. And here's the issue with agritourism. They're not just weekend people. Who's going to come to Santa Barbara with their family for a week? There's nothing to do. I mean, I'm sorry, there's just really nothing to do. You can ride the little bikes along the beachfront there, but other than that, we need to have a real visionary up there. Someone who can say, hey man, we have the best and the brightest people in this community. Let's get us together. Not 22 people, by the way, to try to figure out what's wrong with our business community. I feel bad for those people, but just get some real direction. What's worked for other communities and what's going to work for our community.
All right, we got 1 minute left here. Let me just ask you: first of all, what are you doing to advance your your belief that there ought to be a change? And second, how much do you point the finger at our elected officials, if at all?
Honestly, I can't. I can't at Kathy. You know, Kathy, I used to be an ardent supporter and believer in Kathy and defender. I'm no longer that. I just don't, I think she's a bully, and I don't like the way that she's been running the city. She's truly not a leader, and it's unfortunate. But my next step is, as soon as this is over, we've got a petition table ready, and we are going to get 8,500 signatures. And I'm going to put, if Paul is not retired or been retired by the council, we are going to get his job put on the ballot, and we'll see how they like it at that point. I hate to go that. I mean, this is honestly, Jerry, I enjoy spending time with my family and in my business. This has been a very negative cloud that hangs over my head right now. But I love this town. I really do. This town's been very, very good to me. And I need to be good to it back. And I want to make sure that it has a good future.
Have you thought about running for office yourself?
I get a lot more done just behind the scenes.
Huh? No?
I get a lot more done behind the scenes than I do in office. It's hard for me to even be on a board.
All right, let me ask him one more question. So are you actively lobbying city council members to, because that's, short of a ballot measure, I guess that's how he would have to be replaced. Are you doing that?
I am.
Okay.
I am actively.
All right. All right, Ed St. George, thank you so much for being with us today. I really appreciate you taking the time. I know you're busy, and interesting debate about how we get out of the coronavirus and how we get out of our more chronic problems. I appreciate it. Thanks.
Jerry, thank you. Thanks for doing what you do. Appreciate it.